Okay, we are here again with David Tittle of Musicians for Life and Father Bill McCarthy, who's the author of God Bless America, God's Vision or Ours, and also is very active in pro-life ministry. Father, tell us a little bit about your work in pro-life ministry.
First of all, it's an American ideal. We hold the truth to be self-evident that all men and women, born and unborn, are endowed by a Creator, certain inalienable right, first of all, the right to life. We as Americans believe the right to life is God-given. It's inalienable, nobody can take it away, not even the Supreme Court. And that's just self-evident to any healthy mind. Yet, nevertheless, we Americans, we have killed 400 million babies, counted the pill. Because it's un-American. It's un-American to abort.
And David, as Musicians for Life, you do music and work for pro-life causes, and your album is really the first of its type in terms of pro-life work.
From what I can tell, the research that I've done, there's been a lot of people who've released pro-life songs. I believe, and I hope somebody can prove me wrong, that we're the first group to actually put out a whole CD of pro-life songs.
Now, Father, back to you. Because of the Supreme Court rulings and because of the secular society, this notion that of life as sacred in the room, which had been widely accepted, I mean, back to the Hippocratic Oath, the original Hippocratic Oath, which doctors once took in America until the 60s, it's been lost to a large chunk of our population. What do you attribute that loss to?
First of all, it started out with 5 liberal judges who in 1947 said there's a wall of separation between church and state to protect the state from ever being influenced by the church. That was wrong. The truth of the matter is that our laws are based upon the Bible. I'm 84 years of age. In my lifetime, every commandment was backed up by an American law. We're a nation under God, first commandment. It was illegal to blaspheme the name of Jesus. It was illegal to open a business on Sunday. It was illegal not to respect parental rights. It was illegal abortion, euthanasia, murder was all illegal. But now they took that right. Then in 1973, in Roe v. Wade, they did something that said if it can be shown when life starts, the whole thing falls apart. But now we know for sure. We know that with a second before conception, when nothing is there, it's a second after conception, everything's here. If you take a Chinese woman's egg and a Chinese man's sperm and inject that into a white Norwegian, that baby's going to come out 100% Chinese. We know that for sure, science tells us for sure, life begins at conception. And according to that in Roe v. Wade, therefore the whole article falls apart. They said that in the very decision. If it can be shown when the origin of life is, and you prove the start to the conception, then that's protected by the 14th Amendment.
And when it comes down to it, as soon as you have conception, you have the whole new set of chromosomes, as you say. Biologically, there's not a question here. So the arguments seem to have turned once science had confirmed what we already knew and what philosophers knew for thousands of years. Suddenly the argument had to turn as an argument of rights, and it's, in my mind, it's very much like the argument for slavery. The argument for slavery is, this is not a person, this is my property. And that's become the argument of the pro-abortion people. This is not a person, this is property.
That's true. However, we know, for example, that it is a person at the moment of conception, and we know that. Therefore, it's protected. Unfortunately, that not only is it surgical abortion, but we've killed up to 400 million if you count the pill. When the pill was first coming out, they tried it with a certain number of women, but too many of them died, so they increased the doses. They lessened the doses, so now it doesn't kill the sperm. It stops an already fertilized egg, which is now a baby, from implanting the womb. That's up to 400 million. More than 5% babies are killed in America. 2 billion worldwide, by the way.
And this is also an injected hormone, and you know, I find it interesting that people don't mind, will complain if you have hormones injected in your beef, if you have hormones injected in your food, or if you have GMOs in plants. People will, oh, we can't have that. That's not safe. Yet the idea of the birth control pill, which is a strong dose of hormones being taken, the idea that this might have side effects for generations, nobody seems to want to talk about that.
Yet it's right on the label. There's a big connection between the pill and cancer, cervical cancer especially, but also cancer of the breast. They know that. So it is a cancer-producing drug.
I've always believed it's like the #1 cause for breast cancer. I don't care what anybody says. There's got to be a reason why so many women have breast cancer.
And it's increased in the times that we've now had 50 years to see what the changes have been. Now you're using music, you're using the culture to make this fight. Father's making the intellectual argument in the book and the spiritual argument. You're making the fight in culture. How important is it for pro-life people to make that fight in the culture?
I think it's important to fight any which way we can, as long as we do it with love. That's the key. There's no room for hate in this. We have to do this through love, and we have to try to get more and more people to understand and come on board with the mission of trying to eradicate all these abortions. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but we have to keep trying. And any means necessary. You know, let it be literature, let it be music, let it be pro-life speeches, whatever it takes.
Well, it's my understanding that conventional wisdom is always right up until the point where it's not. And conventional wisdom today says, oh, we'll never win the battle for abortion, but I don't believe that's true. And Father, I don't think you'd believe that either.
Father Pavone says we're winning. We're winning with the battle.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's a deeper problem. St. John Paul says in Theology of the Body, we have to teach women the dignity of sexuality. That's a big part of the problem. These young girls today, the way they dress, the way they act, the way their belief system is highly sexual. They're living together, and that becomes a great temptation once they conceive. If the pill doesn't work, then you have an abortion. And yet it damages them. It damages them spiritually, but also psychologically and even physically.
And then you have the question, people asking, well, why can't we find good men? Why can't you do this? Well, the idea of a culture where you're trying out all these different people, it did not bring the happiness that our secular friends said it would to these women.
And the reason is, the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, and peace. There are 50 million depressed people, including women. Once you live a life without the Spirit of God, that you lose joy, which is the gift of the Spirit. You get a sense of presence, which is the gift of the Spirit, and you lose a peace of soul. And so that they're unhappy. It's what happens in addition to abortion. You get drugs, alcohol, and suicide. It used to be that the highest rate of young people's death was drugs. Now it's suicide. Why? Why are they so depressed? Because they say if it's completing, misunderstand the whole notion of freedom. My father said freedom had to be ordered to the laws of nature and resurrection of God. You're not free to do anything. There's a lot of things you're not free to do. If you're not free to shout fire on an airplane, you're also not free to use foreign words with kids, or to teach kids in college that it's okay that their bodies belong to themselves and not something more transcendent. That's a sacred.
Well, Father Bill McCarthy, Dave Tittle, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for all the good work you both do for life.
Thank you.
Thank you.